Guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic, and I am here with a legend of the British magical sort of institution in the community. And I don't use the word legend lightly. This is a guy that's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and is one of the most successful magicians of the last few years, both as a performer, a creator, a producer, a lecturer, a dealer. He has literally done it all, and he is also a super nice guy who will help anybody. I'm talking, of course, about the one and only Harry Robson. How you doing, Harry?
Craig, that's the best introduction I've ever had, and I'm great. And it's good to be. Yeah.
It's true. Every word I just said is true. You have done it all. You know, if most magicians in the world, if they had a career that was even a fraction of what you've managed to achieve over your lifetime, you know, I think they'd be very, very happy. You literally have, you know, you're not just a magician, you're an entrepreneur. And every single time I see you, you're always happy, you're always smiley, and you will help anybody in any way that you can. You are such a nice guy, despite the level of success that you've achieved.
Well, a lot of people have helped me over the years as well. You give me a gag actually when you said throughout his lifetime, very often on gigs, and I know you've had it, people are saying, have you done magic all your life? And it's just a nice line. And I always say, not yet. You know what I mean? But there you go. Just a nice gag. No, a lot of people have helped me over the years, and I've got to the age and the stage in my life now where I've always tried to give something back, and I'm going to try even more in the future. What I'd like to perhaps do, Craig, is to get the elephant in the room out of the way, which is Blackpool.
Okay, right, okay, yeah. I want to talk about the, you know, you getting into magic and everything, but let's get this out of the way because I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about this. So let's talk about Blackpool. Just for the people that are watching this that don't know what we're talking about Blackpool, because there are people watching this from all over the world. Blackpool is the world's largest magic convention. It has been going for a very, very, very long time. And Harry has been a mainstay of that convention for as long back as I can remember, and I've been going for a very long time. You always have a dealer booth. You always have some of the most incredible products for workers, and it's your booth that I normally will make a beeline for, first of all, just to say hello and to see what you've got and what's new, and normally to stock up on more wallets and everything. And there has been some controversy going on about Blackpool. So now we've given people that frame of reference. Go ahead, Harry.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to mention any names, Craig. That's the first thing, because there's a regime at Blackpool that I don't agree with. I didn't agree with. So I resigned. It's as simple as that. Before I resigned, they started the process of excluding me. They're very good at it. And the crux of it really was they tried to expel me from the Blackpool Magic Circle for no other reason than I supported Matthew Wright. Matthew Wright doesn't have a problem with me mentioning his name. One of the hierarchy at Blackpool took his act, copied it, and I responded. I resigned from the management team, and then they brought a rule in and they said, if you're not on the management team, you can't be a director, because I was a director of Blackpool Magic Circle, and they simply took my name off Company's House, and that was the end of it. Having said all that, the members at Blackpool are some of the finest members. The convention, as you've already said, is the greatest convention in the world. It's the biggest. It always has been, even in the days of Derek Lever. I've seen some fantastic conventions, and I've seen some average conventions, and I don't think anything's changed on that score. However, this is my little announcement for the magic fraternity in the world. I will not be attending Blackpool Magic Convention again whilst the people in charge at the top of the convention are running it. And so I'd like to wish all my magic friends throughout the world the very best of luck, and hopefully I will see you all sometime in the future. I think that's probably got rid of it, Craig. You know,
It probably has. I mean, I'll ask one question about that, because I'm completely impartial. I don't have a dog in this fight
yeah,
at all, because I consider you a friend, and as you know, I know most of the people that are in various different positions in Blackpool. I've worked with a lot of them, so I'm completely impartial either way. My question is there any way that, like, you could kind of find a way through this?
absolutely not. I held an extra special general meeting because I got a letter from them saying that they, for being disrespectful to directors, I'd been kicked out of the club. I responded by calling an extra special general meeting, and it was myself, Andrew Hurst, who has since been kicked out. I'm a life member, so they can't kick me out, even though after this they probably will try. And Matthew Wright, who involvement with British Got Talent, that was what the controversy was all about. So for me, there's certainly no way back. I can sleep at nights. I'm not bitter. These things happen. It's happened at the Magic Circle, very similar, I think. It's very political. So I'm not bitter. I'm disappointed. The people at the top, it's all to do with control. It's to do with power, and it's to do with egos. And it's just not a nice place to be. So for that reason, I'm out.
It sounded like we're on some sort of reality show then. Okay.
Well, that's what I tried to get across then,
Yeah,
Craig.
absolutely.
It was a little gag, you know. I just thought
I
you
love
might
it.
have
I
picked
love
up
it.
on it. Yeah.
I love what you did there. I love what you did there. That's fair enough. And you know, I mean, that shows strength of character. You believe something, you absolutely believe it 100%. And it's very, very easy when you feel like very strongly about something, it's very easy to just do nothing. But you've actually said, well, you know what, this is something I don't believe in, so I'm gonna take action, which is commendable.
Yeah, well, there was type of things I heard on several occasions, not just about me, about other people as well. If either that man goes or I go, and it's like a threat. And you know, at the end of the day, Craig, it's a magic club. We do magic tricks. It's a club. You know, it's not a dictatorship. It's not a. And to me, it was a dictatorship, and it is a regime, and I don't want any part of it. And I take my hat off. I read this morning John Archer with the Magic Circle, and I can see where he's coming from. But magic should be to spread joy and pleasure everywhere, and I'll continue to try and do that. But it won't be at the Blackpool Convention. As I say, I don't want anybody not to go to the convention. It's very successful. This is a personal thing. I wish everybody the best of luck.
It must be really hard organizing that whole thing, though. Like, it must be really, really hard.
Well, I had many years as dealer officer, and I enjoyed every minute of it. We used to have a working party on the Wednesday, and we'd set the dealer halls up. It was hard work, and then the dealers arrive, and I can go back to the day, and I'm sure you can remember, there was no roller banners or anything like that. It was very much like Bury Market, and it has got ever so slightly more sophisticated as time's gone on. And I don't think there's any greater sight when the doors open and people walk in and they see this sea of colour and all the different dealers and all the wares. And I think it's a fantastic sight. And having said that, you know, and I'm sure you find it as well, the amount of magicians I come across, if I'm working with another magician or I speak to them or they phone up for something, and I'll say, are you going to the Blackpool Convention? No, never been. An awful lot of magicians still have not been to the Blackpool Convention. And I'm surprised at that.
Everyone should go to, at least.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Anyway, I'd like to stop talking about the Blackpool Convention because I'll get emotional and I don't want tears on screen. Enjoy the convention, everybody, worldwide, and hopefully sometime in the future I can see you. again, and that's it.
Perfect. Let's move on.
Okay.
Because it feels to me that you have been in magic forever. At least you've been in magic as long as I've been in magic, and everyone's always talked about Harry Robson. You've always been the guy, not just magicians, but at gigs as well. You know, I go to gigs and everyone's like, have you heard of Harry Robson? Have you seen Harry Robson? It's like, you're the man that everybody talks about. When did you get into magic, Harry? How did it all start? What was your origin story?
Well, I was a late starter, Craig, in comparison to a lot of other magicians. My background was commercial casinos, and I was working in Iran, in a casino in Iran when the Shah was in power. I was a French roulette croupier in Iran at the top of the mountain in a place called Varian, which is near Karaj, which is about 30 kilometers from Tehran. I was always a semi-good. I thought I was very good, but I used the semi-good loosely. Amateur magician, always had an interest in it. But in those days, magic societies, it was very difficult to find an outlet. I'll come on to that in a minute, but I was working in Iran and there was an Italian waiter there called Aldo. Poor old Aldo since been executed for tax evasion when he was in Iran. But Aldo was also an amateur magician. And Aldo and myself in Iran, we teamed up and we shared tricks. There was lots of things like cutting holes in the bottom of cigarette boxes and borrowing a finger ring and disappearing. All pretty really bog standard stuff. I used to use the glide a lot and things like that, but it was a lot of fun, and it was a great learning curve. I'd watch Aldo, the waiter, Italian waiter, serve a cup of coffee, and he'd borrow a 50 real note or whatever, and he'd make it disappear. And I never once saw him give that 50 real note back. You see, and so it was fascinating. It was great, and then I left Iran, and my real learning curve really was I started in a little pub in Helmshire near where I live called The Station on a Friday night, and used to work with another magician, Martin Nuttall, his name was. He's now in Portugal selling artificial grass. He should have retired years ago like me, but that's what he's doing anyway. But we worked in this little pub in Helmshire, The Station, from 7 o'clock at night to 11 o'clock at night, performing magic for the locals. And if you can imagine people in there from 7 to 11, a lot of the youngsters by the time 11 o'clock came along were quite drunk. But we used to get £30 a night on a Friday night between the two of us, so £15 each. And that £15 was very, very welcome. I started a corporate hospitality company called Casino Promotions.
Can I just check very quickly, Harry? So you came back from Iran. You were doing it as kind of a hobbyist over there. You came back from Iran. And that's when you started performing. Was that your first professional sort of?
Well, it was simply because I was getting paid for it. You can call it professional, but I mean, but when I started the corporate hospitality company that was quite successful, Casino Promotions, doing race nights, casino nights, again, a great learning curve. I can remember British Coal. So I'm going back a while now because British Coal is now RBS Mining, I think, or something like that. British Coal's gone. And I can remember them saying to me, do you do Scalextric nights? And I said, yeah. And they booked it there and then for 2 weeks later. So I had to go and bloody build one then, you see, you know, that type of thing. But on the corporate hospitality events, I always perform magic. And that's, in my opinion, what made the events special, because they weren't just getting the event, they were getting magic as well. And then I got a phone call from an agent that booked the corporate events that we did. And he just simply asked for availability. And I said, yeah, it's available, not a problem. How many tables do you want, Barry? That's what I thought he was after. No, 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 Harry, he said, they just want you doing magic. They saw you at the gig that you did 3 or 4 weeks ago. And 2 days later in the post, I got a contract, and the contract was Harry Robson to perform amusing close-up magic, and the fee was £90, and it was an absolute fortune. And that was really the start of it.
So did you then think, well, hang on a minute, let's get rid of the casino company and let's focus on magic, or were you
certainly focused more on the magic as time went on? I mean, but in those days, I mean, I think you've interviewed Sean McCree recently, haven't you?
Yeah.
Close-up magic at corporate events was a relatively new thing. Sean was there at the start of it. People like John Atauka, you know, it was a relatively new thing, not like it is today. And then I became a member of the Modern Mystic League in Blackburn. And in those days, on a Sunday afternoon, they used to meet. You did your audition on stage. You had to make everything yourself. And it was always tux, black tie. Even on gigs, even if it was a day gig, a proper gig, a paid gig, it was black tie, and you always took a suit wrap. And it's different to what it is now, I think. But the one thing I remember about the early days with the Magic Society, Modern Mystic League, if you asked somebody to show you something or to help you, they'd tell you to do one. They wouldn't, you know, find out for yourself. You know, they weren't very helpful indeed. It certainly changed over the years. You know, I'll help anybody. If they show an interest, I'll help them. But yeah, so it is different now than what it used to be, I think. There was very few weddings in those days either, Craig. I don't know whether you remember or not.
No.
Magicians at weddings was a bit of a novelty. And of course, in America still now, they don't have magicians at weddings. I think there's a huge market there.
Oh, there is. Yeah.
There's got to be. And I also think in this country, everything I see now on Facebook and speaking to magicians, it's all wedding magicians. You know, there's more magicians than there is weddings that need magicians. And I can't understand why the magicians of today aren't looking at other outlets. I mean, I understand my bread and butter, certainly for the last 20 years performing magic, was company dinners, trade shows, that type of thing. That's gone for the time being. I understand that. But I think they should be looking at, I don't know, private house parties and that type of thing. Golf clubs are open, lots of those type of places, but they just seem to be concentrating on weddings.
I think the reason is it's because it's safe. It's an established market. You know, people know that magicians know that weddings book magicians. It's become almost as accepted as restaurant magic was like 10 or 15 years ago. So I think it's probably for that reason. But
I think you might be right.
So it's kind of the path of least resistance. It's somebody who wants to make a living as a magician. They're like, right, okay, how am I going to do this? I do close-up magic. I don't do stage shows. Where am I going to go to get close-up magic? And the thing that first comes into your mind is wedding magic. And you've got people, you know, like Paul Martin and various different people who sell courses on becoming a professional wedding magician.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I don't know whether you agree with me or not. It doesn't matter. But I think there's a tremendous difference of people working in the London area than there is people working in the north. I think it's a different market. I think the fees are a lot higher. I think there's probably a lot more to go at than what we've got here in the north. And one thing I'd say to the wedding magicians, and I continually see them come and see me at such and such wedding fair, which is fine, but I think they're paying £140 or £100 or £150 to go and do a wedding fair. Just as an idea for you, go and do a wedding for free, because I'll guarantee the wedding that you do for free, you'll get more work from than you will at the wedding fair. And it doesn't cost you anything either. I'm not saying do it all the time. I'm just saying just do one for something like that. I never did a wedding fair where I had to pay. They didn't pay me, but I always got the boot for free because my attitude was, I'm going to be an added attraction to your wedding fair. And people are going to come simply because I'm there. Why you would pay £150 to attend a wedding fair, I'm not really quite sure, when there's other ways of doing it.
I mean, you're speaking to a guy who doesn't do wedding fairs, so I don't.
Yeah.
But
well, I don't either, Craig. I'm going back in time.
People like Owen Strickland and Tom
Yeah.
Mullinger, I know they do really well, but what they do is they get in with a particular venue.
Yes.
They become the recommended magician, and they're there. They're going to recommend gigs to Owen anyway.
Yes.
But it's kind of like they're going to be it's not so much that they're paying to be at the wedding fair. They're being at the wedding fair because they get recommendations from the venue quite a lot. I think there's a difference there.
Yeah, I mean, Owen's very busy. I understand that, and he does very well. But not all magicians are like that. There's a great market for weddings, but you know, there are other markets, as I said, and other markets are going to open up in the future. And I'm not convinced that these wedding magicians are equipped to do. I certainly don't think they're equipped to do the corporate market. It's a different thing altogether, and so they should spread the wings a little bit, I think.
I completely agree. I mean, as somebody who's done a lot of corporate events and also military balls and that sort
Yes,
of thing,
exactly.
it's a completely different experience performing close-up magic to a rowdy, drunk audience at a corporate event than it is where everyone's happy and clappy at a wedding.
Agree with you, Craig. I mean, I've tried to explain to people, sometimes at corporate events, we're so far down the list of importance, if you like. I could send my wife to do the gig, you know what I mean? It wouldn't make any difference. I mean, Matt Wright and myself did a lecture tour 4 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, and it was semi-scripted, but I used to say to Matt, where are we on the menu for corporate events, Matt? And he used to say roast potatoes, because that, you know, that's how it feels sometimes. Wedding magic, you're a superstar. We're there to enhance the event. When you do a corporate event, there might be a guest speaker on that's getting paid £60,000 and all sorts of different things. There's caricaturists, there's all sorts of things going on, and we're just part of a whole thing. And it's knowing when to step your game up and when not to, if you like. You know, I've lost count of the amount of company dinners I've done with Sean McCree, for example. And Sean and I, we turn up. It's always the same format: pre-dinner drinks. They go in, sit down for dinner. We go in, do the table magic, and then we disappear. I mean, we do a great job and we get great reactions, but we disappear. Something I want to talk about is reactions as well, Craig. Make sure I don't forget. So yeah, I think there's a difference between corporate, and certainly a massive difference between wedding magic and trade shows. For many years, I did. I'm not going to say I made a living out of trade shows. I used to do 2 a year for probably about 15 years. And trade shows is a different thing altogether. And again, I wasn't one of these magicians, maybe like in London. I never got £1,500 a day for 3 days doing trade shows. I got 15 years work, but I never got that kind of money. I used to get, and I don't mind telling people, I used to get £600-700 a day for 3 days, plus my hotel, plus my expenses, etc., etc. Now, where I live, so it's about £2,000-2,500 for 3 days work. Where I live, there's not many people get £2,500 for a month's work. And I really do think that we as magicians, we forget how fortunate that we are. I've met magicians and they won't go out for less than £700 or £800 a gig. And how many gigs have you got? Well, I'm quiet at the moment, you know, and I'm doing at the time 4 or 5 gigs a week, every week, all over the country. And I've done gigs at £100, Craig. I've done gigs at a couple of £1,000. And so but I've made a very good living. I'm financially in a great position. I don't have to work again. And I thank from the bottom of my heart Magic for that. But it was by making sure that I was always busy, whether it was selling, whether it was performing, whatever. And I just think that you've got to be flexible and you've got to be sensible. And I also approached it in a business way. And again, I've made a note here, but I don't have to make them, I don't have to refer to it because it's embedded. I wonder how many magicians in the lockdown went on a small business course. I wonder how many magicians on lockdown learned a second language. And I bet the answer is none. I'd be very interested to know. And these are things that are important. And if you want to break into the corporate market, get some business knowledge. I wish I'd learned a second language because it would really, really have helped me, you know, and I didn't. But I did do, I was one of the very first in our business to get investors in people recognition. And I also did, at the age of 50, an MVQ level 5 in best business practice, which is a graduate course. And if magicians, you're not doing tricks, you're earning a living. And if we could get them to understand that, I think we'd end up with some better magicians out there. But
you know what? I completely agree with everything you've just said. And I know that there's going to be people watching this that are going to think, oh, Harry's not right, or that's controversial, or whatever it may be, because the general advice that is given when you go on a forum or you go on the Magic Cafe and you go on a Facebook group or you go to a Magic Club, the general advice is, you know, set your price £700 or £800 for a 2-hour wedding, and you don't budge from that because you don't want to devalue yourself. And you've just basically, as one of the busiest magicians that I know of, that's literally written the book, you know, we'll talk about the DVDs that you've bought out on performing corporates, and, you know, you've got a massive client list. You've just basically said, well, actually, that's wrong. That's not how you do things. And, you know, I agree with you, to be honest.
Well, Craig, the other thing that I'd say on that is I had a limited company for many, many years. It's sole trader now. As a limited company, as a sole trader, it doesn't matter. When I go out performing for money or whatever it is that I do, and I've already said my business, it is absolutely got nothing to do with anybody else, how much I go out for. It's my business. And I've made a very, very good living out of it. And so I understand my business, I understand my market, and I never once, as you've just highlighted, said, my fee is £600 for a 2-hour gig. I'm not going to go anywhere off that figure whatsoever. There's people, I live in East Lancashire, and the average fee for a wedding is £350, £400, say. There are magicians that get more, there are magicians get less, but the average fee is £350, £400. And there's a reason for that, and the reason is that's all the money that they've got. So if you've got a client and you want £400 and they say, Harry, I haven't got £400, in a lot of the cases, Craig, they haven't got £400. Now then, they've got £325, and the question is, and it's a management decision because it's your business, are you going to take the £325 or you're not going to take the gig at all? And it's just simple sales and marketing, you know, that's all.
Really. Well, you've talked about creating new avenues to perform, and too many people are doing wedding magic. At the beginning, you just mentioned this earlier on, you were pioneering close-up magic. Like, you were doing close-up magic when close-up magic wasn't around, and you and people like Sean and Dave Jones and those sort of people.
Dave Jones was, yeah. And Carl Royal was another one, actually. And I have to say, these people were probably just before me as well. I came in perhaps a year or 2 years later. I don't know. I can remember a lot of the work was in the Harrogate area because John Atalka And then, of course, John Atauka went into after dinner speaking much later on. But yeah, it was a relatively new, and there was lots of parlour magic. People used to go to Masonics and captured the golf club nights and things like that. But a relatively new thing for close-up magic, or as they called it in those days, micro magic.
So what advice would you give somebody now, that's listening to you and they're thinking, yeah, right, I don't want to do just weddings. I need to create my own market. As somebody who did that back in the day, and you were creating places to go and perform micro magic. Have you got any advice for the people that are actually going out gigging now? How do they create these new avenues to go and perform? The corporate market is kind of in the toilet at the moment, and hopefully that'll come back in the next year or two. Weddings is kind of where it's at. How do we go out and find new avenues to perform?
I think it's very, very difficult, Craig. And I often get asked by aspiring young magicians, I'm going to get an agent. And, back in the day, you did used to have an agent and they could keep you going for, they give you enough gigs to get a living out of it for the year. Those days have gone now. There's still agents out there. Of course, I've still got 5 agents that use me on a regular basis. But if they send their show reel or whatever it is to agents now, they make the phone call, Dad, I'm a magician, I'm very good, I'm interested on allowing you to put me on your books, etc., whatever it is going to say. And the agent's going to say, have you got a show reel? Yeah. Can you send it me, please? Yeah. And any other publicity you've got? Yeah. And it goes off. 9 times out of 10, it goes in the bin. And the reason it goes in the bin is because he's got 23 magicians on his books. He doesn't need another book. And so the answer is, it's opportunity. It's to be available whenever. I mean, it's to be, when they're doing the weddings, people at weddings, they're members of golf clubs. They are company directors. They do work for companies. And they want those people to tell the people that they work for, so this fantastic magician, he'd be great for our office party at Christmas. We've got a trade show coming up. He said he did trade shows, he'd be great. And one of the things I say in lectures, and again, it's really a tip, is I always ask 3 questions when I'm working. And these are the 3 questions, everybody. What's your name? Where do you live? What do you do for a living? It might take you a minute to get those 3 questions in. It might take you 15 minutes. But I promise you this, once you've got the answers to those 3 questions, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Where do you live? You've got the basis for a conversation. So for example, I might say to Craig, hey, hiya, what's your name? And Craig will say, Dave. I say, that's spooky, my brother's called Dave. Doesn't matter, I'm creating a conversation. Interestingly, I've got a friend of mine sat with me now, Andy Dean. I know, a great magician. And he got a testimonial by video, actually, which he showed me today. And if you could just take on board what I'm going to say, because it is so important. And the lady, he did an event for last week, and the lady sent a little 3-minute video link. He showed it me today, shouting his praises. 3 minutes. He was fantastic. And in that 3 minutes, do you know how many times she mentioned magic? Once.
Yeah.
And I get it all the time. It's the greatest compliment that I get is people say to me, Harry, don't like magicians, but like you. Hate magicians, but I like you. Mm-hmm. Once we get into our heads, the magic is a small, tiny bit of what we do, and it's everything else that's important. I promise you, you'll become better magicians.
That's brilliant advice, Harry. It really is. Amazing advice. I want to ask you another question, but before I do, let me just wrap up what we talked about earlier on, which is when did you eventually close up your casino business and just focus on the magic full time? Was there a time where you went, Yeah.
I did. I was poorly, Craig. And again, I don't mind telling the story and sharing it. I think it's called an ITA. I had a mini stroke a long time ago, and I was in performing in London, and the close-up magic, and I had to do a 15-minute spot afterwards for everybody. And just before I went on, my arm wasn't working, one of my legs wasn't working, and my mouth wasn't working. I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't painful. I wasn't in any discomfort, but I knew what it was. And I went on and I did the 15-minute spot, and then I drove home afterwards. And obviously I went to the doctors and all the rest of it. I'd had a mini stroke anyway, and I decided that was the time that I should perhaps start thinking about doing magic full time. I had a partner at the time, his name was Jason Duckworth, and I actually gave him my half of the business because your health is very, very important. And that's what I did.
You know what? That's probably, out of every interview I've ever done, the biggest piece of advice that anyone has ever given, which is your health is very important.
Very, very important.
So many magicians that like are working, you know, they'll be just eating crap on the road all day.
Well, I again, 4 or 5 years ago, I had the contract for HSBC. On the Premier Suites on the top floor, they refurbished them all, every HSBC bank in the country, and they had an opening night, and I was doing 7 or 8 a month at the time, all midweek, fantastic work, a set fee, but it could have been in Bournemouth, it could have been in Liverpool, it could have been Newcastle, Cardiff, and I was doing 3 or 4 a week. At the time, doing Manchester United, Matt Windsor, I've got to give credit to Matt Windsor. He's given lots and lots of magicians over the last 20 years or so a fantastic opportunity at Manchester United. Just for 1 season or 2 seasons, he lost the contract, and then he got it back again. So that was good. I've had many, many years of fantastic work at Manchester United. However, I was doing 3 or 4 gigs for HSBC a week, 2 or 3 a week, it didn't matter. I was doing Manchester United every other week, and all of a sudden, within the same 2 weeks, lost the contract for HSBC. They cut back on the budget. Great events, because we had a golf pro on with a golf simulator. We had myself. We had an image consultant, a wine expert, and the team travelled around the country. It was fantastic, and we knew exactly what we were doing because we were doing the same thing all the time. I was concerned that at the time, as we all are, when we lose a contract, it's something that I'd done or whatever, but I did the odd gig for them later, you know, after that as well. But within a 2-week period, lost HSBC, lost Manchester United, and it was a huge hole in the budget. And I was really, really upset and a little bit emotional. It was very, very painful until about 2 days later, when I realised I didn't have to go to wherever the next day and wherever the day after that and wherever the day after that. And it was like a huge weight off my shoulders, if you like. And what it does also, it creates an opportunity, because you hinged on it earlier on, Craig. I've now got to get work somewhere else. So that's what you do, you know, and it's a cliche, but it's true. It's one door closes, another door opens. I'm available now because I'm not doing that, and I can do that for you. And so when you get setbacks like that, you know, you get a cancellation or whatever, don't take it as it's not an upsetting thing. Take it as an opportunity for something else. And that's the way that we should look at things, I think.
Absolutely. But I mean, that comes from the fact that you have recognized very early on that you needed to get good at business. You know, you're the guy that was out doing business courses at the age of 50 and so on and so forth. It's because you were trying to better yourself. And you see so many magicians that come into this industry and they are phenomenal magicians, absolutely incredible, but they don't know how to run the business side of things. And that's ultimately why they might fail.
Well, again, I've worked with over the years lots of magicians, and I've doubled up on lots of events because I've got they'll have two or three, or the most I've worked with is 25 actually. I worked with 25 magicians. It was my gig. I put them in Tatton Park, and
Well, thanks for calling me, Harry. Appreciate it.
It's a long time ago, but I couldn't do the gig because I was contracted for a charity gig somewhere else, which brings me very quickly, before we go back to that, 25 magicians, prestigious job. I didn't do it because I was already contracted on a charity gig for much, much less money, but I was contracted. And so I did the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a contract, if you've agreed to do something for somebody, honor it and do it. However much a gig that comes in is. And I've just forgotten what we were talking about before that.
Well, we were talking about business. We were talking about business and magicians not being very good at business and struggling and
sorry, yeah, you're right, Craig. I've turned up at gigs and we're booked from, I don't know, 7:30 till 9 o'clock, and magicians turn up at 7:20, and the gig's running half an hour later, an hour later, at 9 o'clock, they say, that's it, I'm going. And it's not right. I always say to arrive 10 minutes early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is unexcusable. However, I always arrive at an event at least an hour before the gig's due to start. And there's many, many reasons for that. I can tell, for example, in a company dinner situation, I can tell within 3 seconds, looking at the table, how many courses there are, whether there's going to be any speeches, any presentations, all sorts of information that we need. And before I leave that room, after 2 or 3 minutes, I know how long I can stay at each table. Never put your close-up case, if you've got a close-up case, near the stage, because if they're going to have a presentation after the meal, you ain't going to be able to get out, you know. So exit's always important. Lots of little things that you only learn with experience. I never do the top table first. I always do it third or fourth in. I'll spend an extra 3 or 4 minutes with the top table than any of the other tables on pre-dinner drinks. As I'm going round, I work out which is going to be a good crowd and which isn't. And I'll say, which table are you on? And they'll tell me, and that might, I know I've got a table where I'm going to get a great reaction. If I want a reaction, Craig, I don't always want a reaction, and we'll come on to that shortly. Mm-hmm. But all these things are experience, I think. Fascinating.
But that again comes back to your point about, you know, I see magicians that are new into magic. They've been doing it an hour. They've been doing it about a year. They've decided to move from amateur or hobbyist to professional, and they immediately say, I'm not gonna go out for less than £600. And for me, it's flight time. It's, you go out and do the free gigs, you go out and do the cheap gigs, because that, you know, at least especially when you're starting, because you're going to learn so much by doing those gigs. It's going to make you ultimately a much better magician.
Absolutely. And dress code, I have a thing about dress code. I've seen what I consider magicians, well, they don't even know, they don't understand what the word dress code means anyway. Well, again, it's only a little tip. When I'm speaking to a client, a corporate client, because that's what we're talking about now, I always ask the question, what's the dress code of your guests? And I'm not interested in what the answer is, because whatever the answer is, I say, thank you for that. I'll make sure I dress appropriately. Now, what that means, I can dress exactly as I like. because I've said to the client, what's the dress code of your guests? She told me. I say, thank you for that. I'll make sure that I dress appropriately. So if they're in dress suit, I can wear a nice lounge suit with a nice tie, etc., etc. I've already laid the ground rules out. And I always say to the on a corporate event, it's interesting this, to the booker when I'm working. It might be Sally, her name's Sally, and I've done Sally's table after 3 or 4, and she's fallen in love with me because I've told her that she's far younger than what I expected somebody in her position to be, and all the usual things. And I've said, Sally, if I don't get a chance, I'm going to say good night now, because I know you're very, very busy and I don't want to interrupt later on. So thank you for having me. I'm not going anywhere or anything like that, but just in case I can't catch you later on, I'm going to say good night now. And then when I go, the other thing that I sometimes do, I'll ask one of the guests that I've got to know, I'll ask them what the time is, you see, and they'll say 9:30 or 10 o'clock or whatever it is. And I've always got a point where I can refer back to what time I finished. So the client can never say, oh, we didn't see the magician, he went at 9 o'clock. I've asked somebody the time, and I can always refer back to that. So just little things like that, I think, are what come with experience. You know what I mean? It's
well, one question I get on this channel over and over again is the approach to a table or the approach to a group, because I've seen, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen big name magicians that are incredible sleight of hand artists, but they have they go up to like a big table of 10 people and they go and they perform to the 2 people there, and everyone else that's around the table is just bored and not listening. And you know, you can be the best magician in the world, but I think that magicians obsess over magic tricks and they forget that the most important thing is you've got to walk over to a bunch of strangers, and within a couple of seconds, you've got to get them to a point where they want to stop talking to each other and listen to you. And that's probably the
a couple of points on that, Craig. I agree with everything that you've just said, and I've never had a problem with it. It could be that I did have a problem with it and I've forgotten when I had a problem with it. It's that long ago, but I don't have a problem with it. Before I tell you my approach, I'll tell you Matt Wright's approach, because I think it's fantastic. He's got a great approach. He'll say to somebody on the table, normally on the opposite side of the table, you're the captain, so you have to control everything for me. And he gets somebody else to do it for him. So that's Matt Wright's approach. My approach is I move around a lot. That's the first thing. I go and stand at the table and I say, hi, everybody, I'm Harry. I'm doing the magic for you, whether you like it or not. And I'll be very quick. I'm not going to be very quick. I'm going to be as long as I want or as short as I want. And I always do effects, if I can, that involve the whole table. So I'll do a transposition and somebody on my right, somebody on my left. The other thing that I do is on pre-dinner drinks. One of the things I'm known for is put pocket, where rather than taking things out of people's pockets, I put things in the pocket. And in every single case, it's a playing card. So card goes in the pocket, I clock which table they're on when they go, and then I go to the table and I've already got a card in the pocket and I'll use that and I'll be at the other side of the table. Very funny story, true story. Again, I was working somewhere, Grimsby or somewhere, doing a corporate event. Card's gone in this chap's pocket. Clocked who it was, table afterwards, I've approached the table and I remember who the fella is, because if you don't remember who the person is, you're in serious trouble. I remembered who the fella is, but I've forgotten what the card was. So this is good practice for anybody. What I did then, I walked round and as I'm talking, I took the card out of his pocket, had a look and put it back in again, walked to the other side to the table and carried on doing the effect. So it's just, I think what I'm trying to say here, Craig, is you've got to have fun with magic as well. You know, at the end of the day, it's whatever it is you're doing, it's sponge balls or it's card tricks or it's whatever, you know. So I have a lot of fun with it. Never have a problem approaching a table. Listen, on corporate events, you're getting paid a fee to be there. And what that means is you're entitled to be there. It's your job. You will occasionally, it's happened twice to me in 30 years, I think, oh, we don't want to see any magic. I say, that's fine, enjoy the rest of the evening. And I go to the next table. And what I say to myself is, well, that's one less I've got to do. And invariably, somebody from that table will come back to you half an hour later and say, we've heard the noises, can you come back and see us, please? And of course you do, you know. But it's meant to be fun. I approach a table, I explain who I am, and I just have fun with the people and have a conversation. I can go 3 minutes without doing a trick. You know, there's only two subjects I won't talk about, and that's politics and religion. But everything else, football or where they live, and if I'm going to take the mickey out of somebody, I always make sure it's the man and not the lady. You know, I've told many a man over the years that he's punching above his weight. And I've told many a man over the year, it's so nice to see him out with his daughter tonight, you know, and things like that, but never the other way around. So, yeah. So,
but being personable is the thing that you don't get taught in magic books. It's not like double lift, glide, pass, being nice to people. It just doesn't happen. So, yeah, but it's so important.
Craig, I mean, it's an interesting thing that you've said. I touch a lot. I don't mean it inappropriately. I mean, if I put my hand on somebody's shoulder, and I do it a lot, I have to know that I'm able to do that. And I can't give the reason as to how I know, but I know. And it's things I've seen so many young magicians, and they say things that are inappropriate. And yet, if I was to say them, they're not inappropriate. And that's because of the age difference. You know, and I've made mistakes myself over the years. I used to come out with a line that was, are you happy or married? You know, in the right place, I suppose it's funny. It was a good few years ago. And I said to this lady, I said, I was getting on very well. I said, are you happy or married? And she said, neither. My husband died last week, you know. And so you've got to be careful, haven't you? You know.
But I think here's the thing, and I think you've touched on a problem here that I see a lot of magicians having, and I have seen it firsthand, which is a newer magician, maybe with less experience, will see somebody who's more experienced, like yourself, and you'll be delivering lines and you'll be delivering banter with various different audience members, and it will work for you, and they'll go, oh, that's a funny line, I'll have that, and they'll try to deliver it, and it'll kill the table or kill the group.
Exactly.
Everyone's turned against you, because it's not so much about the line, it's having the experience to know when to use it, when not to use it, how to deliver it, which person to deliver it to. And that can only come from experience. You can't just take someone's line and use it, because you don't know the context in which that's been used.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. I mean, one of my, the tricks that I use all the time when I'm particularly in pre-dinner drinks is ring on shoelace. Richard Sanders ring on shoelace. I use a hand to hide the ring under and all that. However, the ring on shoelace, I can do 2 or 3 rings at the same time. It's normally, I don't have a problem with engagement rings either. Never had a stone drop out or anything like that. But once the rings are on the shoelace, gone, and they see them and the reaction that you get, and then I look at the group and I don't see anything. I just look down at the ring and sort of point. And a young lady then will start to go down to take the rings off. That was what I wanted to happen, but I can't allow her to take them off. So I say, no, I say, you can't do that. There might be photographers about, you see. I can get away with it, Craig.
Yeah.
A 20-year-old won't get away with that.
No.
You see, so again, you've got to be careful. Do you want me to talk about reactions or not?
I was going to say, I want to bring up reactions, because you've been teasing this for the whole interview, And I know you've got some very strong thoughts about it. So yeah, can we talk about reactions, Harry?
Yeah. I haven't got lots of reaction ideas. I've got one, Craig.
Fair enough.
You know, but it's top tip. Now, I was one of those 25 years ago, whenever, and I've got a table. I used to say, the booker sat over there, or the agent sat over there. Or, I've got a bottle of champagne for the table that claps and cheers the loudest. Can we have a practice? And the table, oh, Craig, I hate it. And I mean, I hate it with a passion. Only a personal thing. I see a lot of the younger magicians doing it. So what I started doing a good few years ago is this. I've got 10 tables of 10. I've done the pre-dinner drinks. This is a wedding as well, by the way, or a corporate event. It doesn't matter. 10 tables of 10. When I've finished the 10 tables, I always leave a good table. I can go back to any table. I always have that in my mind as well. But I've got these 10 tables of 10. When I've finished, I go round the tables very, very quickly. And I say to the first table, I say, listen, I'm going in 2 minutes. I don't want you to give me a round of applause now. But when I get to the door, I'll just put my hand up like that and give you a wave. And can you clap then? And I go to every single table and I do the same thing. And every third table, I say, I'm finishing in 2 minutes. Don't give me a round of applause now. When I get to the doorway, I'll give you a wave. And can you do it then? And if you really, really want to, you can stand up as well. And I do it with every table. When I've finished, get my case, stick it out the door. I stand in the doorway. I'm like Rocky on top of them steps, you know. I stand in the doorway and I give a little wave like that. And the whole room erupts. And you get a standing ovation 9 times out of 10 as well. So that's my top tip for getting a reaction.
That is absolutely, because the booker's going to see that, like every single person in the room.
Yeah, just stop. Yeah,
that's just great.
I forgot to say that if it's a corporate event, I don't do it with the booker's table. I miss that table out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
That's fantastic. Now, I want to ask you, before I've got several other things to ask you, but one thing in particular, you mentioned before the interview that you wanted me to ask you about juniors. You wanted juniors
and
female magicians.
Okay, about 6 years ago at the Blackpool Convention, and I bought, I probably got, I don't know how many I made up, 50, 100, I can't honestly remember. But I bought bridge-sized cards and I packaged them in A5 bags along with a DVD with 6 or 7 tricks on for kids. Put the bridge-sized cards in, put a junior thumb tip in, 6-inch silk, and I put a small stick of Blackpool rock in as well. And that was on the Sunday afternoon, for all the husbands and uncles and granddads that have forgot to get the kids anything in Blackpool. It was for them to buy, and they've got something to take home for the kids. I've got an admission to make. I only probably sold about half a dozen of them, right? They just didn't go at all. So I ended up, when I got back home, with this. So I thought, well, I'm going to use these bridge-sized cards. And I've used them ever since, Craig. And I go through, like most of us, I go through a lot of cards. And in the 5 or 6 years that I've been using them, I've never had one guest, client, spectator say to me, those cards are small. Now, I've got very small hands. So bridge-sized cards help me very, very well. And it drives me mad at the convention. I see 7 and 8 year olds or 10, 12-year-olds coming to the stand and they want to show what they can do. And they've got poker-sized cards and they're just miles too big for their hands. I do understand if you practice with poker cards, later on it's going to be easier. However, start off with bridge-side cards, and the same with the ladies. Use bridge-side cards. They're easier to palm, they're easier to control. And I just don't know why they don't do it.
That's very true. That's very true. I never thought of that, to be honest, but that is actually a really good point. Yeah.
Particularly if nobody notices. I mean, I've never had, the only people that notice are the magicians. And sometimes they don't, you know, but yeah.
I'd be willing to bet that in the UK, at any rate, more people are used to bridge size cards than poker size cards.
Waddingtons, of course they are.
When you go into a shop, it's Waddingtons or those WH Smith branded cards, both of which are bridge size. So if anything, they're more, you know, the more organic, if that's the word you can use, that, you know, the more relatable or recognizable than a poker size card.
Yeah. I just think for juniors and again, what we were talking about earlier on, particularly with juniors, their heads down, they're looking down there, and they're just doing trick after trick after trick, and they don't seem to want to engage. And perhaps something that's I'll do in the future is start courses for. It's to do with presentation and performance, how to engage with people, how to shake hands, even. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. I think they need teaching.
I think you're right. I see so many, well, not just young magicians, but I see so many magicians, and they're just looking down at their hands the whole time. Yeah. Especially people that put a lot of stuff on social media. There's no, and I think probably the social media is a big part to play with that, because when you put videos on social media, you don't have to think a lot of the time of the presentation. It's music, or it's quick, or it's visual, and it's not really a long presentation. So you don't learn about looking at people directly in the eyes and getting eye contact, and, you know, not being too scripted. So somebody says something and that puts you in a different direction than where you were going. This is stuff that
I agree with you 100%. I've seen so many magicians, they have a set for a table and they can't deviate from that set. You know, when I'm having a card chosen, when somebody takes a card, up to that point, I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do, because this person might say, "Can I have a card?" And of course they can. And so you change what you're going to do. So from a signed card to sealed envelope, you might now go to a transposition or something like that. Don't know till it happens. And to be able to stop and start and have a conversation and talk and just have a bit of fun with the people, you know. It's important, but how do you teach it? It's a very, very difficult thing to teach, and I'm not quite sure how one would set about that. I don't know.
It's something that's really never been taught in magic before.
It is.
Yeah, it's never really been taught, because it's always on the trick.
It's always on, Craig. It's always on the trick. And as we said before, and again, people might agree or not agree, magic is a professional magician, what you're getting paid for. The magic is that much. The whole thing is that much. It is to do with presentation, performance, approach, arrival, departure. You know, all the weddings I've done over the years, I want to tell you now, every single bride at every wedding I've done is the most attractive bride I have ever seen in my life. Some of them are as ugly as sin, but I've got to tell you, I do a lot of weddings, but you are the most attractive bride I have ever seen. And John, you should be very, very grateful. Yeah, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, this is why you've been so busy for so many years. You know, it's not because you do wedding fairs every single day. It's not because you've got a massive Google AdWords campaign running. It's because everybody knows, like I said at the very beginning of this interview, the amount of people that say to me at gigs, "Oh, have you heard of Harry Robson? Do you know Harry Robson? Do you know Harry Robson?" It's like everywhere you get people to remember who you are, and you are memorable, and people come back to you again and again and again.
Yeah, a lot of the time, Craig, it isn't Harry Robson, it's that little old man you see.
Oh yeah, there's that.
But there's Tom Trickett, who was part owner of Air Tours and sold out for £275 million. One said to me, and he said, "Harry, the only bad publicity is no publicity." And I think he's probably right. Yeah.
I completely agree.
But it's a great business, everybody. Magic's wonderful. We bring a lot of pleasure to people. And if you're doing your job properly, even though it brings a lot of pleasure to ourselves as well, what people don't see is what we do beforehand, and how you get to a gig, how you get home from a gig, all the preparation. It isn't just that hour and a half that we're working. People often say to me, well, it's all right for you, you just do it. Craig, in my life, I've never just done anything. Everything, as haphazard as it might seem, everything is prepared, or I'd like to think it was.
Yeah.
And that's because it's a business, and because we're professional and we get paid for it, and we get paid very well for it in most cases. And we should remember that. And there's a huge market, of course, for amateur magicians out there. I don't think we should forget them.
Oh, no.
They contribute with ideas and various different things. And the reason in a lot of cases that they're amateur magicians, because they've got jobs that pay far, far more than what professional magicians get. And I don't blame them for that, not for one moment. Yeah, but it's great business.
What about trick selection, Harry?
Yeah,
obsessed about trick selection.
People are obsessed by trick selection.
And again, as a dealer, I'll say one thing: as a dealer, and as somebody who's been obviously associated with the Blackpool Dealer Hall for many, many years, you know that magicians are always looking for that one trick that's going to make them famous.
I think it's sad. I think it's sad, Craig. One thing I've just got to point out with kids, I was talking to Andy about it earlier on. I'd like to think people will remember, I would never sell anything to youngsters that they couldn't use. I used to say to the youngsters, still do, is it a need or is it a want? Because there's a massive difference between a need and a want. If you want it, don't buy it. If you need it, possibly buy it. But to answer your question, many, many years ago, Walt Madison, Patrick Madison's father, Patrick Madison, his son, is a great magician in his own right. But Walt Madison is one of the old school, and he lectured at Blackburn Modern Mystic League, and he came on to lecture, and he said, "What I'm going to show you now, I've been doing for the last 25 years." Oh, and I thought, oh God, no. Do you know, Craig, what I'm doing now, I've been doing longer than 25 years, a lot of the material. Trick selection, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of tricks. And trick selection is what works for you, simple as that. You know, I when he first brought it out, I think it's 24 years ago, Darryl brought out the Darryl Rope and Mystery, Darryl's rope routine. And I can remember learning that, and I've used it ever since. If I get asked to do a spot after the close-up, I've got several things I can do. That would be one of them. I get a tremendous amount of use out of a brainwave deck, not an invisible deck. I came up with my own brainwave deck, which is the cards are red on both sides. I don't have the finale where I knew you was going to choose that card because it was the only one with the blue back. Because what happened is, again, years ago, I didn't realise somebody was following me from round table to table. They said, hang on the other table, it was a red back card. On this table, it was a blue back card. So what I did then, I made brainwave decks up with either red to red or blue to blue. And I also put jokers in as well. So my setup, and I think this is very, very important, what I have in my pockets is always in the same place. Right hand pocket, regular deck of cards. Left hand pocket, brainwave deck. Left hand trouser pocket, handkerchief for ring on shoelace. Shirt pocket, spares of signed card to sealed envelope. Left hand jacket pocket, How wallet for signed card to sealed envelope. Right hand pocket, long card, not to be used in the traditional way. My long card is just on the off chance that somebody says 3 of spades, and I just go like that and open my jacket and close it again. It's not a trick. It is a trick for them, but I don't. So did you choose? Did you? I don't do that. just on the off chance somebody says the 3 of spades. Open it, close it. Back pocket thought transmitter, not the new one. I still have one of the very old ones of John Cornelius. Watch, the watch, Joe's the watch. Right hand jacket pocket, the control for the watch. And the order of doing things that I've got in my pockets will vary from table to table. Sometimes it might just be, could be 10 seconds. What card are you thinking of? It could be a brainwave. Sometimes it'll be 10 or 15 minutes. I think what is important, that is, you've got to be what you're comfortable with, is that you can maintain eye contact, you can have a conversation, you don't have to think about it. That's not to say don't work on new material. I am not the best technical close-up magician that there is. In fact, I'm really, really way down the ladder. However, everything I do is clean. I can talk, I can converse with people, I can touch people, all these things that are important. Another thing that I do is, and I don't think it's age, I think it's control. When I approach a table, if there's an empty seat, I'll sit down in it. I'll actually sit, and I can do my introduction there. And every single time I've done that, when the person comes back, because they've either been to the bar or the toilet, I turn around and I look at, I say, I'm really sorry, I'm in your seat, I'll get up. And every single case, no, stay where you are and carry on, you see. So it's almost like a control thing. They're giving me permission. I've not asked for permission, but they're giving me permission. And it's just a way of controlling the table. And again, these are all things with experience, I think. And of course, I'll change the tricks if I different tricks. But as a bog standard thing, it will be that type of thing. Type of things I do: torn and restored card, transpositions, little bit of comedy mind reading. People say you can't mix mentalism and comedy and card magic. Well, but you can to a certain extent, of course.
I think the guy that Graham Jolly might disagree with that statement.
Well, exactly. And I've worked with Graham a good few times, and he's entitled to disagree, because he really is one of my favourite mentalists, Graham, yeah. And very, very funny as well. You know.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, he's really funny and he does mentalism. It totally backs up what you were saying. Same as John Archie. You mentioned John at the beginning of the interview. Both John and Graham have proved that you can do mental magic, you can do mentalism, and still make it very funny.
Well, just as an example, I remember in Leicester, I'd done a thing with a thought transmitter, and it was an old lady, quite an old lady, and she'd written Tony Curtis, and I'd had all the laughs with it and everything, and eventually got to the crux of it, and I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do, Mary. I'm going to be your Tony Curtis." And she bloody fell off the chair and fainted. They had to get the paramedics. So magic can be a very, very strong thing as well. You've got to be very careful, I think, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's Craig, for me, all the time, it's got to be fun. Magic's got to be enjoyable.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting that you say that you need to know where everything is. Again, I've worked with magicians and I've seen them go up to a group or a table and they go, "I'm going to show you something with, hang on. Here it is. No, we'll do this instead." And it's just, hang on, you're meant to be a professional. You look like a bumbling buffoon.
I've seen them go to a table with a close-up case and open the case up and have a routine. But the reason why I've explained what I do there, well, I said I put envelopes in my shirt pocket, signed card to sealed envelope to wallet. If there's 10 tables, I'll have 10 envelopes in there. I don't have to reset again. I've seen so many magicians, they do a table and then they disappear for 5 minutes. And I don't know what they're doing. I think they're just skiving. And then again, So for me, I don't have to reset at all.
Do you have a different set that you use mix and mingle? And then you've mentioned a lot of your gigs are you do cocktail and then you go and do tables. Do you, in that period where they're going in the room, change your set round a bit and do something that might play bigger to a big table, or do you just like go in with the same stuff?
How truthful do we have to be, Craig?
Hey man, let's be completely honest here. This is my channel.
Well, the way I can explain this is I often get a phone call for lectures, and I've lectured at a lot of places 2 or 3 times. And the phone call will be, "Hi, Harry, we had you 3 years ago. We enjoyed it. The members have asked for you again. Are you available for a lecture?" Before you answer me, is it a different lecture? And I'll say, "John, it's not a different lecture, but I'll do it in a different order," you see. And they're going to book me anyway, and they book me. I find that people's memory span is very, very short. And you're going to get Facebook and text and all sorts of things on this, Craig. I don't care, because we are being truthful. If your personality is strong enough, and if people are enjoying what you're doing enough, and you do maybe in a different order, similar, for example, with a brainwave deck, I've got 7 or 8 different presentations. So I'll probably do the same effects, but use a different presentation. And I've never had a problem with that. And again, that makes it easy for pocket management. I mean, I've worked with somebody in Scotland a long time ago. I'm not going to give his name. There were 6 tables, 2 magicians, 6 tables, and in another room, he laid out 6 different sets for the 6 tables, and he had a different set again for the pre-dinner drinks. And he died on his backside, because even though he's got 6 sets, and he's got a different set for the walkabout, it was very boring. He just died. Oh God. And yet all my tables, without asking them to, they were laughing and all the rest of it. I do understand that I'm jealous of them to a certain extent. People like yourself, even my mate Andy Dean, Sean McCree. Technically, they're wonderful magicians, and I wish I was a bit more like them. But what people like Sean does, his strength is his technical ability, and he plays on that. And so it's like an orchestra. It's nice to watch. With me, it's funny and it's wham, bang, bang. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's still funny to watch, but we're entertaining people. That's what we do. You know, we have an agent in Leeds, Arena Entertainment, and they put Sean and myself out a lot together. And I'm convinced the reason is because we're like chalk and cheese, you know. I mean, I've often seen Sean at gigs with me, and I've got a group of 12 people in pre-dinner drinks, and I can see Sean stood to the left watching, and he's just shaking his head like this, you know, as if he can't believe what I'm saying and what I'm doing and what I'm getting away with. But we're all different. We all have our own strengths. So my strength is personality, and I do understand, and I do know how to use it, and I use it. Daniel Chard, technically wonderful. That's his strength. So he uses it. He can do miracles. And I think that's what it is. We all play. If we find out what our strengths are and then play to that, I think that's great. That's what we should be doing.
Completely agree. But I mean, there's no harm, even if you're technically amazing, throwing in some self-working stuff. I mean, Daniel Chard is a perfect example. I'm good friends with Daniel, and he is incredible.
Oh, fantastic.
But you know what? I've seen him walk up to a table and throw an invisible deck out and just do an invisible deck.
I worked with Mark Mason again a good few years ago, and I couldn't believe the material that Mark was using. I thought, well, hang on, that's just the same material as I'm using, because it works, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Again, with newbies, if that's the right word, young magicians, some of the routines they do they're too long and too complicated, and even though they're using fantastic slides, you know, they want to learn off John Carey. You can cut it down to nothing and bang, you've got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting.
At the end of the day, magic is entertainment, and the most important thing is people are entertained. And if you make it too long and boring, it's not going to be as entertaining. How many tables have you been to where somebody goes, like you said earlier on, I didn't think I liked magic, but I like you?
Yeah, it happens a lot, Craig, and it's a great, it makes me feel really, really very good.
But that's because you don't make it about the magic.
Phone number, you know, you've got to.
You don't make it about the magic, though. Even though the magic is strong, you could hate magic and watch your performance.
Oh, Craig, I've gone to tables and I'm there and I say, I'm Harry. How is everybody? You know, did you enjoy the presentation? Because they've had the presentation before the dinner. And now then, did you win a prize or not? And after two or three minutes, I say, oh, I've forgotten the reason I was here. I was supposed to do some magic, aren't I? And then just things like that. But you have to know when to do it and how to do it.
But they've bought into you at that point. They've spent 2 or 3 minutes thinking, oh, this is a nice guy. So by the time you say, hey, I forgot what I'm here, let me show you a trick, they've already kind of become a fan of you. And it would be very hard for them to say no. Whilst if you just walked over to the table and went, hey, is this a red pen knife? Did anyone drop this red pen knife? No, well, how about this black pen knife? You know, they're just going to tell you to sling your hook.
Can I tell you a very nice story, Craig?
Yeah.
And I do use it in the lectures, but it is a true story. I did a gig for years and years in Brighton in December, and got paid a very, very nice fee. And at the end of it, I always got a £50 tip. Same place, same people. It was a man and wife that had a large company, and it was entertaining the staff. Nice fee, £50 tip. And after 4 or 5 years, I went down, same thing, nice gig, knew everybody, £50 tip. And then they said to me, they said, Harry, next year, exactly the same thing. However, we don't want you to perform any magic. We want you to sit at the table with us, enjoy the meal, enjoy the rest of the night. We put a show on afterwards, watch the show. And because we feel that you're part of the family. That's what I did the year after. I got paid the same fee, handsome fee, and they give me a £50 tip for sitting down with them, having dinner, watching the show. Now, isn't that nice?
That's amazing.
The year after that was the magic, and 2 years after that, the company split because they got divorced, which was very, very sad. But for me, that's what magic is, you see. I just think it's a nice story.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. Let me ask you a question, Harry. Moving into a slightly different subject, what made you decide to become a dealer? And what I mean by that is you were, you're very, very busy. We've already talked about how you made a very good income from magic. You decided to sell your events, your casino company. You're not shy of a few quid. You've got gigs coming out of your butt, and then you decide. I know you. I think the first things that you did were the DVDs through RSVP, weren't you? You bought out some DVDs. No.
No.
Can you give the timeline on this and also
explain why you decided before that? It was before that. I used to go. I used to see the dealers, and I thought I'd love to be a dealer. And then what happened is, on a Sunday night for the last hour, I used to go on Keith Bennett's stand, Keith Bennett, and get rid of all his stuff that he had left over. Had a huge crowd for the last hour on a Sunday night. All his bicycle seconds and various different things. And I thought, I want to be a dealer. And then what happened is, I had Jerry O'Connell's hip wallet at some stage, and got a lot of use out of it. And I came up with a design for I thought I'd came up with a design for a different type of wallet. Anyway, cut a long story short, I wanted somebody that would manufacture wallets. And in those days, all you had was yellow pages. There was no internet or anything like that. And because of my business, I had 121 yellow pages that covered the whole of the UK. That was how many there was. And I came to the Manchester area, and I thought, well, handbag manufacturers might do it, leather manufacturers. And that's what I went to in the yellow pages. And A, right at the top, it was Ashworth's, manufacturers of quality leather products. So I phoned them up, Jeff Ashworth. First phone call I ever made. And I said, hello, is that Ashworth? They said, yeah. I said, do you manufacture wallets? They said, yeah, we manufacture wallets. I said, it's a bit strange because I want a magic wallet manufacturing. They said, yeah, what do you want? A Himba wallet, Z wallet, Carter wallet?
What?
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I said, can I come down? He said, yeah. I said, I'll be there in an hour. And I was there an hour later. And floor to ceiling, true story this, JB Magic. Wow. JB Magic. Thousands and thousands of wallets, box after box after box after box. And the wallet he was making at the time, and do you think Mark listens to this?
Oh yeah, no, he listened. Yeah.
Oh, well, I better not tell the story then.
No, go on. Go on.
Well,
just like that.
I'd got this design for a wallet. It wasn't a good design. It was nothing spectacular. And he brought samples out to show me. Jeff Ashworth did. And he said, Mark brought me this whenever, he said. And he said, can you make something like this, but just make it a bit different? It was a Jerry O'Connell hip wallet, you see. So
that doesn't surprise me. Come on, let's be honest. That just doesn't surprise me.
Oh, Mark was fantastic because, I mean, he then brought out, and I know they sold thousands, and I can't remember what it was called. It was on the
Mirage wallets.
The Mirage wallet.
With the pull on the internal inside of it. It was
dental floss or whatever it was. And he sold thousands and thousands. So I'd got me wallet manufacturer, and that was it. And then I brought a trick out called, I was always very interested in names of tricks, which is the most difficult thing to do. I brought a trick out called foreplay, which just amused me, which was a cutting of the aces. I think what viewers need to understand is when you're a dealer and you're inventing tricks, we probably invent more that don't do anything than what do, you know. So foreplay didn't do anything, and I brought a wallet out that I can't even remember what it was called, Craig, but it didn't last very long and it got taken off the market. And it really is a slow process. And then, of course, we occasionally will buy effects off other people, buy the rights off them and things like that. But again, what people might not understand, when you bring a wallet to the market, for example, it can cost you £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 before you sell anything. It's a huge outlay. I mean, I ended up dealing with Tony Curtis, and I have to say, so everybody knows, I sold the rights to some of my wallets 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, to what's the word I'm looking for? Not pro mystic, I'm not thinking of that. Mentalism, pro mentalism. Steve Cook and Paul McCabe.
Okay.
And they're adding some things onto it. And so if you're looking for quality wallets, I still have one or two of my own that go on Steve Cook and Paul McCabe's website, and you'll find quality wallets. But I had a great time manufacturing and coming up with different ideas. It's mainly cardboard, sellotape together and stapled, and you send a sample off, and the sample send it off for a sample, and the sample comes back, and you start again, and it could be 3 or 4 times backwards and forwards, and then the end result doesn't even work. So you've got to come up with another idea then, just not what people think, you know. But anyway, it's fun. I do think there's too much magic that's invented, which is meant to be, you said right at the beginning of the show, the next big thing. And again, I'm not having a pop at him.
No, I agree completely.
He's a pal of mine, or I know young Stephen Williams, I think he's on the Wish site at the moment with Hovercard, you know what I mean? Which has been around for 100 years. It's there's very little new in magic.
But you go on to somewhere like Murphy's Magic or Penguin these days, and you refresh in the morning, and there's another 30 or 40 tricks.
Absolutely.
That's come out. It's not like the old days.
Yeah. So it comes back to the question that you asked. What tricks do you perform? If you was a magician starting out, what tricks do you perform? Because there's hundreds of thousands of tricks, you know, and I do honestly believe it was far better back in the old days. A lot of the stuff we used to perform, we had to make ourselves because you couldn't buy it. I mean, I remember Supreme Magic, and you had the catalogue, and you had an order form in, and you used to go through the catalogue and choose what you wanted, and you'd fill the order form in, and you go to the post office and get a postal order, and you post it off to Supreme, and you'd wait for 2 weeks for this miracle that you've ordered to drop through the post, and it had dropped through the post. And what a load of crap it was when it arrived, you know, not all the time, but a lot of the time. So in that sense, I'd like to see more bricks and mortar magical outlets as well. I do understand everything's online and it's a lot easier for magicians, but bricks and mortar, I know it's non-profitable. You can have a coffee, you can have a wrap, they've got all the things, etc. You know, they still have them in the States, but we don't have them over here now. I mean, you've got Merlin's, which is fantastic, and I think Stewart in Sheffield and different places, but
there's not that many brick and
there's
mortar.
not that many.
Alakazam, Prop Dog International.
Yeah.
Really just,
I've been down to Prop Dog and he's got a great setup there, you know, and as you say, Alakazam and but there's not that many. And who's the boys in Newcastle?
Magic Box up in Newcastle.
Magic Box, yeah. They've got a good setup, but they're few and far between. You know, I don't think there's any in Blackpool now, is there?
I don't think there is, no.
I know, you know, I mean, a place like Blackpool, they haven't got any.
Crazy that they haven't got one. It really is.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've been dealing for a very, very long time. I mean, you've been bringing unique magic tricks out. The thing that you do, Harry, is you don't bring a million tricks out every single day. And it's just like when you go, and this comes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of the interview. When I go to Blackpool and I see you, which isn't going to happen anymore, but when I go to Blackpool and see you, the reason you're one of the first people I go to is because I know that you're going to have either something really interesting, but absolutely you're going to have a worker. It's going to be something that's been well thought out. It's not going to be something that doesn't work, that's fallen apart. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the last thing I bought off you, I got the medal, which I use all the time. You know, I absolutely love the medal. And that's the thing. You bring out really good stuff that's commercial, that's working.
Well, I think the secret is, Craig, if you can try and bring out things that you're happy to use yourself. I've seen so many lectures as you have, and they start the lecture off. They've got this new miracle that they're going to demonstrate, and they say, "I use this in my close-up set all the time." They've never used it in the close-up set, and they're never going to use it in the close-up set. They brought it out to sell it. That's the only reason. I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying some of them. But it's getting harder. For example, one of these DVDs, I think it was the Project Alpha Male DVD that Matthew Wright and I brought out. We launched it on the Friday at Blackpool. And somebody came to me on the Sunday at Blackpool, and it was on a Chinese magic site on the Sunday. $5 or something like that, and we launched it on the Friday. So that's that makes things very, very difficult, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, that's just, you can't compete with that. You can just hope that people do the right thing, to be perfectly honest.
Well, exactly. It's and in the main, I think that people do. But I will always try and support people that are producing tricks and things like that.
Well, what's the secret? What's the secret to creating a good magic trick?
Well,
the goal, isn't it, for people? They want to create their own magic trick, either to perform themselves or sell to other people.
I use it not because I use it. I've had every magic wallet you can ever imagine, not just mine, every wallet you can imagine. The wallet that I use working is the How wallet. And what made the How wallet different, and it was the very first one, and I don't actually really get credit for it, perhaps this will help me get credit for it. The How wallet, signed card to sealed envelope, but the wallet could be handed out to a spectator. The spectator could open the wallet, the spectator could take the envelope out and then open the envelope and take the signed card out. So for me, that was, and David Williamson actually bought one from me, and at a show he used it. I used to supply the envelopes with it and everything else. He used it, and the story came back to me. He had a lady, there was a card chosen, and he'd done it, and he's thrown the wallet into the audience, and a lady's caught it, and he said, open the wallet, take the envelope out, open the envelope, is there anything in there? And she said, yes, there's a business card of Harry Robson's, which I thought was wonderful, sorry, but how do you create things like this? I've only ever done it once, but I did it with the How wallet. I went to bed with a wallet, sorry, I was just closing my eyes. I went to bed with a wallet, and I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. Because the design of the How wallet, if you put an envelope in a regular wallet and push a card in, it's not possible to do that. You've got to understand the workings of it. There's two entries to it for the How wallet. It's quite complicated, and then I had to get it made. It was quite technical, and I was very proud of it, because it's a card going into a wallet, and then it's going through the wallet into the container, and that's where the envelope was. That was the only way you could do it. But the How wallet is the wallet that I use, and what I do now, I go out with, I can do double signed card to sealed envelope, so 2 envelopes in the wallet at the same time. And the other thing I did, when you were saying what do you carry in your pockets, in my right hand jacket pocket, I have 8 or 9 different coloured marker pens, Sharpies, all the different colours. And I say to the person on my right, I say, what's your favourite colour? And they say yellow, and I just take a yellow pen out and give it them. What I do when I do it, the people on my left, I let them see that I've got all these pens. So they're in on the joke. So it's just quite comical. But I do double signed sealed card to envelope with 2 different coloured pens with 2 people. And when the cards come out, there's one signed in blue and one signed in red, and they've got and sometimes I use a blue sticker on the envelope and a red sticker on the envelope. So their envelope is the one with the blue because they've got the blue pen, and just a nice little routine,
Can I ask, for the people that have been listening to this, and, we mentioned at the beginning, you're not going to be at Blackpool anymore. For people that are going, oh my God, I need one of these How wallets or something else that you've produced, do you have a website that people
No, again, I'll explain that in a minute. Steve Cook and Paul McCabe, support them because they're doing a great job. They have the rights to the How wallet now. As far as the website is concerned, Craig, about 4 years ago, so before the pandemic, about 4 years ago, I had the magic shop attached to the website, a separate password, etc. but I took the whole lot down because I was just too busy. Now, normally when people take the website down, it's for two reasons. One is they're ill, or one is they're skint. And it was neither of those things. I was just too busy, couldn't take any more work on, take the website down, and that's what I did. So yeah.
Okay.
So
so can people, the stuff that's not available through Steve Cook, DVDs and so on and so forth?
It will be available from other dealers, and
okay.
I'll be announcing that shortly.
Okay, that's cool. Brilliant stuff. Good
Maybe
stuff.
Andy Dean.
Why not? Why not? Real Workers, they're great.
Andy Dean,
I love those guys.
Real Workers, yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Available only at Real Workers, yeah. Well, he's like family anyway, so.
Can I ask you, somebody else who's like family? Can I very quickly ask how you've mentioned him several times, Matt Wright? Your name and Matt have become synonymous. You brought out DVDs together. You've done lecture tours together. How did you and Matt become so tight?
Well, Matt's from Burnley, which isn't too far away, and Matt, and again, we did it on the lecture tour, so I don't mind telling you. Matt sent a DVD in, VHS, incidentally, not DVD, VHS in the old days. Derek Lever and myself used to scrutinise tapes for the British Medical Championships. And Matt sent one in, and it was crap, and we didn't use him. So I have a long association with Matt. I have an awful lot of time for him. A lot of people don't understand FISM. He rehearsed for 2 or 3 years for his FISM act. I've been to his show in Spain. I've worked behind the bar there, and he's got a fantastic setup, and I have an awful lot of time for him. He's brilliant at producing DVDs. His photography is brilliant, and he comes out with some amazing stuff as well. And Matt and I have a really good relationship. For example, I can't remember which DVD it was. Matt picks me up at the airport in his BMW. That's how it usually works. And I jump in the BMW, and hiya Matt, hi Harry, what are we going to do? Don't know, what do you fancy doing? Let's do Think of a Car. All right, well, let's go to the studio and do the explanations for it. And we drive to the studio, we do the explanations, and then we go out the next day. We film the live footage, and then I get on a plane and fly home. It's a lot of fun, but I have an awful lot of time for Matt.
He's great.
I think he's a great worker.
And you mentioned the lecture tour you did about 3 years ago together. I was at one of those stops.
Whereabouts was you?
I came to see you in Wolverhampton.
Okay.
And I just thought the stuff that you spoke about with Think of a Card was amazing. It's one of those routines that very few people do. My friend Nemid Phoenix does it really well, but very few people do this. And it's such a strong, powerful piece of magic to have somebody just go think of a card and immediately know what it is. Incredible.
Well, yeah. I mean, Matt and I has completely different routines to what I have. I'm not going to do it on film now, but I've just brought out a similar thing, and it's where the spectator thinks of their own card. So, I mean, as you know, we're going to alter it, but we show the card in the wallet. It's a bit like yesterday's dream. So we show one card in the wallet. We show a regular deck of cards. You won't be able to see, but it doesn't matter. And then I tell the spectator they're going to choose their own card, and they just look at one. And as I said in the lecture last week at Leeds, 90% of all think of a cards are actually either choose a card or pick a card, and it turns into think of a card later on. There's very, very few actual think of a card. So the spectator, I change it later on, so you're going to think of your own card. What card was you thinking of? They name it, and then that's the only card in the wallet. So it'll be spectator thinks of their own card. When, as in most routines, it's spectator chooses a card, or spectator picks a card, or spectator looks at a card. They don't actually think of one. I don't know whether I can't think of any think of a cards. I'm just trying to think. Is there? No. Genuine think of a card, apart from a brainwave deck or an invisible deck.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, the only thing that you could maybe argue is John Kennedy's Mind Power deck.
Yeah, possibly.
They're getting the impression they're thinking of any card they're not, but you're getting the impression that you are. Yeah. Or variations on that.
But no, it's a routine you can do anywhere. You just need a deck of cards, and I like it very, very much indeed. It's very, very strong. I mean, Matt's got it down to a T. He only shows about 3 cards. I show the whole deck, Matt shows 3 cards. He'll show a high one, a low one, and a middle one, and 1 red and 1 black. One of them's a picture. He doesn't even have to ask a question. He knows what card it is. It's like Classic Force with think of a card with Matt. He's very good at it.
Yes.
I go across to Spain quite a lot. His show, anybody that's not seen his show, if you get the opportunity, go and see it. He plays 3 or 4 different characters. He does close-up magic, parlor magic, street magic, horror magic. It does the whole lot. It's a 2-hour show and it's fantastic. You owe me a few quid, Matt.
Well, let me ask you a question, Harry. Let me ask you one last question, which is, what's next? I mean, we're in a period of time now where the pandemic is coming, hopefully, to some sort of end. People are going out performing again. Gigs are happening. People are going out, and magic is happening once again. Live conventions are starting up again. Magic clubs are meeting back up again. What's your plan? I mean, you've been at the top of your game for many, many years. Is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you haven't hit yet? Are you still wanting to carry on to perform at the same level that you did?
I want to lecture. No, I don't want to carry on at performing at the same level as I did. Just the opposite. Craig, I mean, truthfully, and I know you're going to be very kind and say yes. People that haven't seen me perform before, so companies, whoever, do they really want a silly old fart like me turning up performing magic? And the answer is, I don't know the answer to that. There's lots of young magicians out there that are excellent at what they do. And the other thing I don't want to do, I certainly don't want to do, I have done them in the past, old folks' homes and things like that. So nothing like that. So the performing will be cut down to, if Matt Windsor asked me to do United, I'd probably do that because it's like home to home. People that have seen me before, I've got 2 gigs coming up where people, I mean, one of them in Southport, and at the end of the conversation, I said, you've got to be very careful when you, just a phone call I got. I said, choosing a magician if you haven't seen them before. She said, Harry, I've seen you 5 or 6 times and all we want is you. I haven't got a clue who I was speaking to, Craig, but there you go. So people that have seen me before, yeah. So what I'll probably do, I'll concentrate on the lectures, bring out another 2 or 3 or 4 more effects. I do like the lectures. And try and give a bit back to magic, and I might try and set something up for the youngsters. I haven't really got the patience for people, particularly youngsters, that think they know better, It does annoy me. So whether I've got the patience for it or not, I really don't know. But I'd like to give back a bit to the magic community, and quite how to do that, I'm not really quite sure. But just before you go, and again, I won't be at Blackpool with the present regime. And again, to all my magic friends, because we meet thousands of them, don't we, throughout the world, thank you for your friendship. And please support the Blackpool Convention. It's a great convention. I'm sorry I won't be there, and hopefully I will see most of you sometime in the future.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. You, Mr. Robson, are pure class. You really are. You're, you know, you say that you want to give back to the magic community. You've already, as far as I'm concerned, you've already given back. I mean, I've seen you at Blackpool in the past. People have come up to your stand, not spent a penny, and you've spent so much time just giving them free advice, free advice. You're one of those people that just always will help if you can. I've never heard you say no to anybody. You are, you know, so I think that you're already one of the people that really do give back to the magic community. But if you can figure out a way to do it on a different level, and maybe, you know, that's something to do with Andy Dean, who's sitting there with you. He's probably got a platform that would help with that sort of thing. But whatever it is, Harry, you're absolutely amazing. You really are. And,
thank you, Craig.
Really
thank you for interviewing me, and thank you for being gentle with me. And you're doing a great job with the podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Harry. Guys, do me a favor, leave a comment in the comments down below, because Harry will see it. I'll make sure that Harry sees it, even if he doesn't log on and check it himself. And yeah, so leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to we'll be back tomorrow. I'll be doing 26 videos a week, so back again tomorrow. But Harry, one more time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. God bless.